So this is day 4 of Rietema speaking on identity. Yesterday she spoke on the fact of identity killers and what they do. And I'm going to combine 4 and 5 because what I got out of it was a lot of similar things. But mainly talking about values and where I find a lot of my identity from, and what I really value in my relationship with Christ. Yeah, Thursday and Friday, I'm probably going to focus mainly on values this week, and how that identifies me and how God is transitioning that. Well, not this week, like right now. No. But yeah, that I'll be able to kind of convey that. Starting off with my number one answer, which was religious beliefs, and how that actually had to be debated for me, which I was like, okay, that's shouldn't be debated. My religious beliefs should, number one, be my highest value, no matter what. But at the same time, I debated it because of the way that it's perceived. When I think of values, I think of things that like can't budge or can't move. And I was like, okay, if that's the case, and somebody shares their values with me, for example, if they're from Islam or Hindu, or they're a Buddhist, Buddhism, and I sit there and I hear it, like, would that be like going against my values? And I was thinking, I was like, no, that's more personal, like personally, my values. For example, I wouldn't go into a Hindu temple and sit down and eat with them, or sit down and worship with them, because that worship wouldn't be perceived as worship to my God. It would be worship to their gods. And so I thought, no, like religious beliefs is my first one. It's my biggest value because I will not waver on them whatsoever. My religious beliefs, I will not waver at all, because of the fact of I know who God is, and I know who He's in my life. He's my identity, and so my number one value is my religious beliefs, because my identity is wrapped in Christ. And so that was really cool to see just how I came to that point, and how I was able to recognize that, and recognize that was my first. My second biggest value was service, and that's not a bad thing, but it's also not a. It can also be a bad thing. It's a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing, because if I value it so high, then it can become something of a grudgingly what I'm supposed to do, and do it for the pleasure of man, not God's pleasure, which I'm very much learning about, and God is still teaching me about, but I'm working through it every single day. So one of the reasons that service is so high for me is because God calls us to love each other, and by serving, I can exemplify that in ways that I can't otherwise. A lot of the times, what serving does is it requires you to have relationship with those around you, meaning that, for example, I can't know how to serve my grandparents if I don't know them in need and know what they need, know what they need service in. For example, my grandpa loves washing his car, and absolutely loves and is kind of a perfectionist about it. So for the fact of us washing his car, I could serve him, but if I don't do it the way that he wants, then it's not really serving him. Instead, it's kind of tearing it down a little bit, because he just ends and he gets frustrated because it's not clean how he wants it to be. But, for example, I can serve my grandparents just by going and hanging out with them and loving on them, because for them, quality time is a huge thing. I don't get to see them very much, and so it means so much to them if I take time out of my day and say, hey, you guys are important to me, and I want to come and I want to hang out with you guys. It's something I'm realizing I don't do enough, and I wish that I could do it more, because I'm realizing that I don't know how much longer they're going to be here, and that sounds horrible, but at the same point, we're in a world of sin, and people die, people pass away, and if I don't spend the time with my grandparents now, if I don't spend the time to get to know them, I'm never going to get to. They're not going to be around forever. And how much would it mean for me to just stop by and say hi? Spend 20 minutes, an hour just talking with them, seeing how their lives are going. That can mean more than me coming over and washing their whole house and not saying a word to them, because they get to have a relationship with me. And I'm learning just how big that is, how big relationship is. Where on the other hand, I may have a friend that her car broke down, and she has no clue how to fix it. And for example, my radiator broke down the other day, and my dad took time and served me by helping me fix it, and he showed me how. And so now I have this skill and I have this ability to go and help my friend. To her, I could spend an hour or two drinking coffee with her, and that'd be great, and she would love it. But what she needs right now is she needs her car fixed so that she can come to events, that she can be mobile again. And so in that time, drinking coffee wouldn't mean as much as me going and spending time fixing her car with her. It just speaks love to the person that you are serving. But I think why it's so big for me is the fact that I care so deeply about those around me, and that I want their lives to be as easy as possible. And for that reason, it's hard for me to accept being served. I understand if like you're at a restaurant, things like that. But for example, I hate with a passion when I'm sitting here at the dining room table, which I'm currently at right now, and I just finished my plate, and I'm just talking with friends, and somebody gets up and tries to grab my plate and go clean it off. They want to serve me, but for me, I'm like, no, I can do it. I don't need to cause you the extra work because I'm able to do it, and I want to serve you in that way. I don't want to have to make you have extra work. But in their eyes, they're saying, I want to serve you and bless you with this. And so it becomes this tension because I'm like, I want to serve you, but they're like, no, I want to serve you, and it's just like, we butt heads. So I'm learning how to allow others to serve me, because that brings people closer together. It allows them to grow in friendship. So yeah, service is huge. I forget the order of everything, but another one was work ethic. Just a work ethic of you do something, you do it well, and you work hard at it. And if you don't, then what value do you have? What value do you have? Why would somebody keep you around? Because if you're not doing anything for them, then why? What would be the purpose of keeping you? So I had work ethic. I had compassion, because to me it's so big. Kind of going with serving others to be compassionate towards other people, to love them, to grow in them. And I had bettering oneself. It was worded differently. It wasn't self-discipline. It was like constantly growing and bettering oneself. And I was debating between that and learning, and I was like, well, learning for me is bettering oneself. So I chose bettering oneself. But in that way, like, I want to get better at the things I do, and so I want to have excellence in them, which is another one that I didn't pick because I was like, we were only allowed to pick 8, and so it was so torn between them. So I chose like self-development because I was like, okay, it's really important to me that I do the best that I can possibly do in any situation. For example, basketball ministry down in the court. Right now I get really frustrated because I know I can do better, but I don't know how to do better. And yes, I can go down and practice for hours, but I don't have those hours to practice. But I'm saying just little things of like, I want a coach. I want somebody who like knows what's going on, just to tell me like, hey, so if we're running down and there's a guy to the left and a guy to the right and you're coming down, just break down the middle, because then we can pass it off to you or distract some people and get somebody in there, just so I know what to do. So I'm efficient at what I do. That being said, it's not just sports, but it's everything across the board. When I learn, when I do these things, I desire to be the best that I possibly can, putting my best foot forward, because I want to reveal what God can do through me. I want to reveal who He is through me. And if I just cut it short, then what's the point? And with that, there's also the fact of I value different things. So, for example, my senior year of school, I didn't take all AP classes. I didn't take all these things. And you're like, well, if you wanted to better oneself, then you would have. Yes, but I value friendships and I value other people more than I value getting A's and getting high GPAs. And so my values of friendships and my values of other people contradicted my values of self-bettering oneself. And I was able to do that, but in a different standpoint. I knew I wasn't going to college right away. I don't know if I will ever go to college. That's still up in the air. If God wants me to go there, I will. But it wasn't important for me to take AP classes and get ahead in my classes in college, because I didn't even know if I was going. And I still haven't at this point. But yeah, just that, like, my values affect my identity and what I care about. So I really put emphasis on different things because I value them more than other things. And that being said, a lot of my values come from my culture and where I am. I grew up in Lancaster County. Work ethic, service, and religious beliefs are huge. My top three. And so those were instilled in me because the culture around me told me that these were important. Yes, they're important to me because of who I am, but also because of the culture I was in. For example, family was not one of my top ones. No offense to my parents or my brothers. But for me, it's more important about what I'm doing and where I am than my family. Yes, I'll be there if they need me, but I'll be there as much for them as I will for any of my friends, because I consider my friends family as well. I don't find that I need to call them every single weekend, or I need to get in touch with them as much as possible, because I figure that I'm here for a reason. And so I know them, and I know that they will love me, and I know that they will care for me even beyond that. And so for me, family is just one of those things that I am blessed in, and I can bless other people, but it's not one of my top values, which was interesting, and God was kind of revealing that to me. Not that I don't care about them at all, but just that like God, I think, gave me the ability to not cling to them, because He's going to take me places, and He's going to take me other places, other ways in this world that I won't always be connected to my family, and I'm okay with that because I'm following God. So yeah, with that being said, there's definitely some values that I think are going to change, and maybe just even over this DTS. But as I get closer to God, my values are going to line up closer to His, and so what He desires and what He wants will also be huge. So I need to seek Him and seek His desires and His values, and from that I can find truth in my value, my identity, and ultimately then I'll be able to succeed in that. So yeah, I really enjoyed this week of identity, and I definitely feel like God told me a lot, not necessarily for deep root, but for overall in general. And I'm excited to see what's to come for the weeks to come. Yeah, thanks guys. Love all of you.